Hey there, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Mindset by Dave podcast. This is actually the last episode of my 30s. I turned 40 years old in about 6 hours. And for the last episode, instead of having a guest, we decided to make me the guest. So we have MXIETY on the show today, only she is interviewing me. She's an absolutely phenomenal host and she does a wonderful job of it. She's someone I really admire within the space as well. So to have the tables turned on me on my own channel, I can think of no one better. So anyway, I hope you enjoy the episode.
Super not complicated. So excited to be here. Hi, Dave. Hello.
Hello. This is so weird.
It is so weird. You know what's weirder is that I don't have to worry. If I'm interviewing somebody, I'm usually pressing buttons and a stream deck and stuff. I'm just sitting here going so I don't know, talk about yourself, I guess. This is so cool. I'm literally just on Zoom for all intents and purposes with a chat window next to it. Pretty cool.
Maybe that's the key.
Yeah.
Makes it much easier for our little neurodiverse brains to keep to handle. Right? Less open tabs.
You know, it's funny because I remember talking to my therapist back when I had started streaming, and she was like, "Have you ever considered maybe getting tested for ADHD?" And I was like, "Why?" She's like, "Well, I watched your stream yesterday, and I don't think it's supposed to be humanly possible for you to do so much stuff at once. So this might be a good segue into that." I was like, well, I mean, streamers do it, but also I know I do 4,000 more things. So the point taken. But anyway, okay. So this is not about me or my therapist. I have to remind myself because you're interviewing me. My brain is also not clicked in fully into it. Dave, let's pretend for a second nobody has ever watched your show. Give us the rundown. I need you, you came onto somebody's show. This is so freaking hard, which is why I'm preambling it. I need you, you just came onto my show and you're about to give me the top 5 elevator pitch of who's Dave? Who is this mysterious man?
Okay, so who am I? Let's go with the important things. I am a neurodiverse. I am someone who lives with bipolar disorder and ADHD. So yeah, I get it. that is my big starting point. My big starting point was when everyone says, "How did you get into mental health?" It's mental health got into me before I got into it. You know, it's I was born with it. Maybe it's Maybelline. So yeah, that's number one. Number two is I'm an educator of mental health in the UK. So I work in schools and businesses helping both kids and adults learn and understand more about mental health, whether that is understanding other people's mental health more or understanding their own mental health more, or ideally both. I'm a father of 2, one of which keeps on coming in through that door to ask about pasta.
Priorities.
And a fur baby, Digby, the near enough 11-year-old chocolate Labrador now. He's very, very old and he's got more grey hair than I do, so he's not really a chocolate Labrador. Number 4, I started streaming because of lockdown and because I couldn't go out and do as many of the talks that I would normally have done in the real world. And I find it very hard not to talk. So
I also have this affliction. Mm-hmm.
And number 5, which isn't necessarily about me, it's about the community that I've put together. We are called MXIETY, which is short for neurodiversity or just diversity in general. We are an amazing community that I'm very proud to be at the head of, who basically are welcoming of people no matter what walk of life, and are empathetic when they're able to be, sympathetic when they're unable to be empathetic, and just lovely the rest of the time. So it's exciting. That's my elevator pitch.
That's beautiful, and I like that you also had that community bit. That's beautiful. So thank you so much for sharing that, Dave. I have to ask. I want to say you asked me this question, but if not, it's a big one that I have been asking people as somebody currently on hiatus. What keeps you going? What keeps you making this? And if you dare say just community, I swear to God, you're going to have to dig deeper than that, because they are wonderful, absolutely wonderful humans. But this is so much more work than just talking to wonderful humans every day. So what keeps you coming back? I mean, there is such a sludge of stuff on Twitter and just in the Twitchosphere and in mental health, and in our personal health. Our brains aren't exactly like helping this whole process run smoothly. So why do you keep coming back? What motivates you to stay?
Do you know what? The actual answer to that, I don't even know if I'll be able to verbalize. I can feel an entire wall of emotion behind my eyes.
It's just like it's welling up right in your chest, right? Right?
Honestly, I try and boil it down to that expression, be the person you needed when you were younger. Without trying, we've got an emote on my channel called Thirsty But Worthy, right? Because I'm very, very thirsty. But I think that usually I deliver. I'm not usually clickbait. So I'm going to put the confident pants on, which should hopefully stop me from crying for 5 minutes. I think that I have an ability to be able to take what are complex issues and make them sound simple. Not easy, they're never easy, but I also have an ability to explain my own mental health to other people in ways that a person that doesn't have it can begin to understand it. That is a weird skill. It's like, that is what I do for my community. We call it Bridging the Gap. And I'm supposed to make an entire YouTube series, but I'm also supposed to do 64 other things. So they'll get done eventually. But I advocate for people because advocating for yourself is hard. Like it's really hard. I actually find it easier to advocate for other people than myself, but let's not get into that too much. Yeah, that's what keeps me coming back. And going back to point 4 is the fact that when I'm not using my voice, because sometimes I go into not using my voice, usually it's because I've been asked too much of in a short space of time. And the one person that's not asked me for me is me. So normally it's like it's not so much of an issue if everyone's asking and I'm saying no occasionally and I'm still taking time for me. But if everyone's asking and I put me to the back of everything for more than a couple of weeks or more, especially more than a couple of months, I get into this whole rebellion phase where I'm like, say I'm not helping anybody for forever. And it's at first it's like a breath of fresh air for about a day.
Right.
And then the longer that goes on for, because it went on for like 6 months once about 10 years ago, I was like, because I've always been the person to help everybody else. And then 12 years ago, I had to help me and I had to say no to everybody else. And that was great for a while. And then I was like, hang on a minute. I kind of finally realized that I wasn't doing as this might make me sound a little bit more selfish and a lot less altruistic, but ultimately it's like I was helping other people and speaking up for other people and doing things for other people because that was what is right for me to do. And if I'm not doing that, then actually longer term, I suffer more by doing too little for people than I do when I do too much for people.
Oof. The weight of that to me, you know what's going to be, I think we're going to sidebar this for a second. I think what's going to be harder about this is because I have to do these mental gymnastics of like, I'm about to call Dave out. I'm going to say it. And then I'm like, if I'm going to call Dave out, I sure better be ready to answer the same fucking question. But okay, so that's an interesting, like, I kind of, because this is not a diagnostic, I can kind of throw this label on you, which is, that sounds a whole lot like a hero complex, pal. Like,
probably.
Right? So, I have to, so like, is this how you respond to your depression? Like, oh, you're worth nothing, you're useless. And then you're like, oh, I am useless. I help other people so much that I literally will bury myself. That's your voice. I don't know if you could hear that was me pretending to be you.
It was a great uncanny British accent.
I even forgot to do a British accent. If it came out great, that was on purpose. But yeah, so yeah, I guess explain that. How do you live beyond this like purpose of like, I have to help other people? People can help themselves. What's going on if you don't help them? There's something else behind that.
Oh God.
I told you I can answer. I don't know that I can answer this question, but I'm calling you out because you're in the hot seat.
I'm not going to ask you this one until in the 3rd of June when I ask you to come out of retirement on the mental health ultramarathon. Anyway, we'll get to that later. I won't ask you that in front of all these people. But okay. Yes, I think, like, let's face it, underneath most mental health advocates is a history of, as we say, needing that themselves. And we all have that history of who we needed to be when we were younger. Who I needed to be for both my mum and my dad, for completely different reasons, was quiet and out of the way. So for my dad, he works shift work, and I only saw him like a couple of hours a week, but usually it'd be after a late shift. So he'd go to bed and I'd babysit. I'd babysit my little sisters. To my mum, my dad had left us with no money. So my mum was starting a business from scratch. And for when that would happen, like literally, I've been interrupted by my son twice in the first half an hour of the stream. That is more than the first three years that my mum was when she was working from home before she got an office. You know, I would come in, eat my dinner off an ironing board, and then go and hide in my room and play Super Mario World. I was going to say, I nearly said 64, then I'm like, I'm not that young. But I would go and play Super Mario World, or maybe even Metroid or whatever. And that's what I'd do, is I'd stay out the way and stay quiet. And yeah, like oh God, why am I so close to tears today? I don't know. I'm going to let it come if it actually comes.
I'm going to tell you though, like, first of all, you could take a second and take a sidebar and go wherever the hell you want. We both have ADHD. This is fine. But second of all, like, if you want to cry, cry. I mean, like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, man,
my stream room is equipped.
Yeah, like, same. I can't. Mine is actually, so what I did is I put my tissue box behind my monitor so I can literally just pull tissues like this. Oh. Genius. I know. Consider doing that.
Yeah, I'll do it when I can reach over the monitor. Yeah. There's no space to get it under the bottom.
Yeah, but that's how I have it. So I could just like, so it looks like a never ending magic.
You're a more experienced tissue dispenser than I am.
But yeah, so if you need to take a second, take a second. If you're going to cry. Yeah.
No, my lot have seen me cry a bunch of times. It's fine. It's in fact sometimes they come in expecting it, and when they expect it, that's when they don't get it. But basically, yeah. Like, I think if we go into like where my depression, like the biggest recurrence of my depression that I've had as an adult was 4 years ago. I had a lot of steady depression over the course of the first 18 months of the pandemic, because suddenly...
Because hello.
Exactly. Suddenly the cup runneth over, but not with good stuff. But about 5 years ago, and this is going to sound a little bit hero-y, I guess, but like 5 years ago, I thought... When I first got into coaching, and when I first got into coaching because I'd been coached myself, and it's not a pyramid scheme, but it may as well be, because you go like, oh my God, this person said a few things to me, and now the way I approach everything's completely different. And I'm going to
go say those things to other people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And my depression, like, because I have several depressive episodes a year usually, and I had 3 years with none, like 3 whole years.
Wow, I'm jealous.
Yeah.
Impressive.
And I felt like this drive of purpose. But before all that, I always felt like, who am I to speak up about anything? Who am I to talk about this? Who am I? That question, who am I to do this?
Oh my God. And it gets thrown at us over and over again, right? How many times on Twitter people are like, who are you to? And you're like, I don't know. I'm not anybody. I'll just go die in a hole now. Thank you.
It's like, yes, excuse me, where are your troll qualifications?
Yeah.
Your trollifications. I would like to see your bachelors of trolling before you troll in my chat. Thank you very much. But yeah, so I honestly thought that. And about 13, 14 years ago, one of my best friends said to me, oh, you're going to be a motivational speaker one day. And I was just like, what are you on about? And I didn't see it. And when I was actually doing my coaching qualification, I'd learned to stay quiet in class in school as well, because I was bullied for having the answers to questions.
Sure.
And then as an adult, I went back and I was doing the coaching qualifications, and I was like, I know this stuff. And I knew all of this stuff from... It just made sense to me. Mm-hmm. And I literally, I've got it in a notebook around here somewhere, is I was sat there literally like, you know, like how people with ADHD are like, I can't wait for this story to end so I can tell a more interesting story that I'm in. You know, it's like, that was kind of like what I was like in these sessions. I was like, I want to talk, but I can't, you know, who am I to talk, and all the rest of it. And And I wrote him this book, you know, your time will come, be patient. Like, and patience has never been one of my things. You know?
No, I'm a hurry up and wait kind of person.
Yeah. So and then I basically I started doing mindset and mental health alongside personal training as what I was for my job. And again, because I found I had this voice, I got slightly more emboldened by it. Like, I've got the first videos of me, like, you know, furtively glancing at the camera, like, hey, hi guys, you know, thinking that I might open up about something, you know, like that level of content, or that level of confidence in what you've got to say. And that I found that gave a connection to people much more than, hey, here's how to bench press, or like, you know, it's like that was, and I was like, right, well, I suddenly just like again, another ADHD trait. It's like, this hobby is boring now. It's like, the problem is I make my hobbies my careers. So it's like, and it's like this personal training thing, I'm interested in this, but I'm much more interested in it. I was interested in it if the person wanted to know all the minute details and stuff, but if a person just wanted like a 40-minute beasting or whatever, I was like, no, like, that's not me. If you want
to nerd out about this, I will give you the ins and outs you didn't know you knew, needed to know. But if you don't want to nerd out about this, I could just, we're out. I'm done.
Here's an answer to a question that no one ever asked, basically. Right. And but when people found out about, because the first way I talked about mental health was I was, you know, the only thing I was an expert on, me. Like, and so I talked about my own mental health, and so many people then were like, I want to talk about this, and my clients would talk about it and want to and stuff, and then they'd be like, oh, you really helped me with that, and actually that workout you gave me today and the way the talk we had at the beginning was just as valuable, and all the rest of that. And like, I was just like, I just got so much more involved in all of that. And I suppose at that point what I did is I made the mistake, which I've made about 1,000 times since then, of thinking, that's it, I've made it now, I've arrived, this is who I am, I'm the PT that talks about mental health. And then that stopped being enough for me. And then I was like, because I was like kind of on this high about 3 years of no depression, I was like, I've beat mental illness by exercising and eating right and all those pieces of advice. Yeah.
I love that kind. That when people in that stage come into my Twitter mentions, that's usually when I get the pettiness comes right out. I'm like, oh yeah, did that? Are you cured? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, I felt like it for a bit.
I'm sure it did. I'm sure it's the problem is not that like you felt good. That's not what I'm mocking. I'm mocking usually people in that stage come around to tell other people to be like, you're just not working out enough.
Yep.
I figured it out. You're stupid. Here, let me tell you how to do this. And it's working out more.
Thankfully, I never became that to everybody else. I became a little bit like that to myself. I came a little bit like, I've done this. Like, who'd have known? Because the thing is,
I can't be depressed anymore.
I was on top. I was on top of everything. But the problem that happened at that exact same time is I got really, really busy. And what happened is I looked in my diary, and the only things I could make room for other people in was to get rid of everything for me. And I ditched my own workouts. And for about 3 weeks, I felt really good about that. Because I was like, oh, I'm helping more people, and I'm helping more people, and I'm doing it at my own, and I'm pushing my own stuff to one side for them, and that's very altruistic of me, and all the rest of it.
Right. How amazing of me to do that. Yeah. Nobody else can save the world the way I can.
Exactly.
Oh, so familiar.
And then obviously you don't feel the negative benefit of leaving them out at first. And I say this to anyone who's a people pleaser, is we love it at first. That's the problem. Being a people pleaser.
You could do that for a long time too. It's not even at first. It's like years you could do that.
Exactly. Yeah. And it doesn't give back as much as it takes, but it seems like it does until you hit a certain level. Yeah. Then I hit that level, and my depression hit hard. And I had 3 months where I didn't get off the couch, and my business fell to pieces. A bunch of my clients were understanding it first, and then not so much after a while, you know, because they needed, and I understand that. And I've thought I've built up like a support structure over time, and the support structure, once things got difficult, didn't really know how to deal with it and all the rest of it. And I remember lying on the couch and actually crying, saying, no one's coming. I was just saying the words, no one's coming to save me, over and over again. Just like, no one's coming to save me. And then weirdly, like a little light bulb went off and was like, No one's coming to
No
save you.
one's coming. Oh God, it's like
it was the exact same words,
Yep.
but it's like you've got to go out, you've got to go and do it yourself.
Well, it's partly release and then partly empowering, right? Part of it, because it can be as disempowering. I've said this, there's a lot of things out there like that are disempowering as much as they are empowering. Yeah. And it's if I can't, no one's coming to, all right, sounds like I'm saving. I have to save myself. I'm going to be altruistic about me. Of course, I'll come to my savior. I like saving things.
Yep. Yeah. And that was what it was. And but now off the back end of that, I launched a program called The Life a Day, where my goal was for 2018, maybe 18, 19, 20 was the third year. Yeah. So in 2018, I was like, I'm going to give a free one-to-one to a different person every single day for a year. That was saving myself. And I did it. And I was like, that's cool. And then I don't know if Sleepy Lisa's still in chat, but Sleepy Lisa was like my big confidant through all of this. And she just looked at me one day and she's like, you got to stop. I'm like, why? She's like, because I can tell that a life a day is not enough for you anymore. And then so then for year 2 in 2019, I did something called the Life a Day Pay It Forward, where I helped one person a day, but I asked them to do something for somebody else, and then trying to kind of help more and more people. And then and then I did the same again in 2020, but I tried to get a bunch of other coaches and stuff to kind of throw in free time, like sports therapists to throw in free massages. You got people to throw in free haircuts, all sorts of things. Like it was called a Life a Day. It Takes a Village in that year. And then I have trouble asking other people to do things. So that was a bit of a challenge for me.
So you have to up your ante, of course, to do more things.
But in order to get other people to do things, I had to felt like I was worthy of being someone that other people could do things for. And that was then 2020 happened. we all know that.
I've heard of it.
And then suddenly I couldn't ask anybody. I couldn't turn around. All these people that I'd roped in to help me, they were running their own business. I couldn't ask my sports therapist to give away free massages when he couldn't even actually give away paid massages. He couldn't work during that time. So I kind of felt like that whole project had fallen apart, despite the fact that I still carried on with my 1 hour a day until hour 1000. And then at hour 1000 I was like, really, I've got to stop this now. And I did it for just over nearly 3 full years of like, it wasn't every single day, but it was an average. So some days I do 10, so I could not. And that was, and again, in those situations, I think I did 14 was the most I did on one day. And it was both exhausting and empowering, like, because I felt like a warrior at the end of it. I felt like I used to say to people, look, people like, oh, you're doing all this stuff so selfless and all the rest of it. I'm like, I said, honestly, first of all, I got 1,000 extra hours of coaching experience. Not many people get to do that. I got to, and also it was limited to one per person per year. So on average, I'd probably say I spoke to about 600 different people, which then gave me, again, I'm a big believer in communication, that the communication is on the side of the communicator. So it's my responsibility to be understood. It's not that person's responsibility to understand me. And that helped me a lot with that, because you speak to 600 different people and you have to adapt for that. So
somebody clip that. That was a good clip moment.
I'll just do it with my button here. That's one of my recent clips. Is people like, how'd you get so many clips? And I'm like, I don't wait for other people to clip me.
No, yeah, you press the button, fam. Yeah. If you're a streamer,
be your own hero, be your own clipper.
Yeah, be your own clip. Well, the other thing is, if you clip something, then you can go back and use that clip as reference to like clean up that clip, which is not ideal and it takes more time, but it's better than waiting. Or your audience is like, anyway, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
It's cool. So yes, there is, in terms to that is a very long way of saying, is there some sort of hero complex there? I don't know is the honest answer to that. I know that I feel good about helping other people, but at the same time, I just feel like it used to be that, like, it used to be, why would anybody listen to me? And now it's, why not me? Somebody's got, honestly,
I don't have that. I didn't get there yet. That's a higher level of enlightenment.
This, the way I see it is somebody's got to do this. Like this. No, maybe not someone's got to do exactly this job, because, by the way, I do not think I've got it right. I've got it my way. I've got it right doing my way. But like, I know, like, you know, like Wabba, yourself, like Papa Glitch, a bunch of other Adam, a bunch of other mental health streamers, that we all do it slightly differently. So and I'm like, you know, so I don't think I've got it right, but I'm learning and I'm trying. And the big thing is that the gap needs filling, right?
Yep.
People, because
there's a huge gap,
and that was what I learned through the A Life a Day thing. It's like I always said I made 3 promises with A Life a Day. Number 1 was it was completely confidential, so I've never talked about basically who had one. So if someone even came into chat and said, I'm like, oh yeah, that's nice. Like, well, tell me a bit about yourself, and they'd be like, I did an A Life a Day with you. I'm like, yeah, but I'm not supposed to know that. You know, they're like, you know everything about me. I'm like, yes, but for the purpose of the chat, I've got what you've told me in private on this side of my brain and what you've said in public on this side of my brain. That was interesting. But number 2 is that I would never ask anyone for testimonials and stuff like that. So I wasn't doing it just to farm that. I wouldn't say you didn't need to like a post or share a post or anything like that. It was completely and utterly off the books. And number 3 is I will do my best to help you to the best of my abilities. Now, what I said with number 1 was I will not talk about this, but if I find, I will not talk about what you've said to me, but if I find that 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people are talking about the same thing, I will talk about that thing. I will never say,
yeah, it's anonymizing data.
Because ultimately, and because I wanted people to think, like, because if someone came and spoke to me about imposter syndrome, for example, right, 20 people spoke to me about imposter syndrome,
and then suddenly seems like it's in the air.
Yeah. So I'm like, right, my rule was if 5 people are talking to me about this, there's 5 million that aren't. You know, right. It's like, so therefore, if something came up as a completely utterly one-off, I'm like, I'm not making a piece of content out of that. But if I'm hearing the same thing come up, like giving your time to other people until you've got no time to give, and then eventually you burn out from it, like I talk about that, I'll make a video about it. To the point at which people thought I was like a psychic at one point. It's like, because I could talk about that, like, as with intimate knowledge, because I'd lived it and heard it from 16 other people. But so that was kind of like, the way I saw it was, this is needed. And again, like, historically, I'd have sat back and been like, this is needed. I hope someone else does that. I hope somebody does that. I hope someone, we need somebody to do this. So I hope someone does that. Now I'm like, well, I'm someone. Like, you know, and that was it, is that, so that's what keeps me coming back, is the fact that someone needs to do it. So why not me? Now, as long as I'm so open about this now. I'll tell my chat when I'm burning out. I'll do all that. I'm getting really good at saying no. Still not perfect. But I'm getting much better at it. And also I've got a team of mods around me that can spot my signs sometimes before I can, which is really helpful. And also the really biggie for me is, if I'm giving advice to other people, I better damn sure be living by that advice myself. So if I'm telling other people... You start
feeling like a hypocrite really quick when you don't do that. After a while, it just feels dirty. I don't know how to explain that. I went through a phase like that too, where I was like, first, I was like, no, I can give other people advice that I don't take. That's how it works. That's what it is. And then after a while, like I said, you just feel dirty. You feel like you're lying to people.
Do you want to know how I finally rationalized that in my head? This was about 2 years ago. And I sat there and realized I wasn't doing the things I was telling other people to do. And I said, right, okay, that can mean only one of 2 things. It can either mean that I'm giving everybody else the best advice in the world, and I don't think I deserve the best advice in the world, or that I'm giving everybody else second-rate advice, and the way I'm doing it's the right way. And I didn't like either of those things. I was like, I couldn't bear the idea of the fact, well, I could probably find it easier to bear the idea that I valued other people above me, but I certainly could not bear the idea that I was giving everybody else, that my way was better than the way I was telling people, like, because that just felt murky and horrible. So I had to acknowledge the fact that actually that I should follow that advice. And actually, you know, I should follow that advice for another reason, because if I actually do follow that advice and it doesn't work, then I should probably stop giving that advice.
That was it for me. That was it for me. Like either I'm giving people advice that's not working and I'm lying about it, or I'm telling other people that are, there was like, it's like a circle of, I'm telling other people because I think that they're more valuable than me. But if they're more valuable, hold on, there's a loop that's broken. I haven't done this often enough. But anyway, it just made me feel that the bottom line is just made me feel dirty. It made me feel like, was I lying to people? Why was I telling them that this would help them? And then it actually was, I think it was the realization of like, oh shit, you don't want to help yourself. And then you tell other people that they deserve being helped, but you're saying you don't deserve being helped. That's kind of.
Do you know?
That's a lie.
Well,
right.
you've just here's an answer to a question you didn't ask. Right, is one of the big questions for me. And this was also probably about 2 years ago. A lot happened that year. I had a lot more time to think. Was I actually had to stop and ask sometimes? Is like, do I self-sabotage because I don't want to be too fixed, because too fixed might make me unrelatable?
Yep. So if I'm fixed, what am I even talking about? There are several text messages between and my very good friend who's also a streamer being like, I guess I'm not talking about mental health anymore because I feel better. And he's like, what? I was like, well, I feel better. I feel supported by my community. I feel like I'm better at when I'm taking breaks. I feel like I'm better at recognizing when something's going on. And he's like, so that's it? You help yourself and now you don't need to talk about mental health anymore? And I was like, ooh, that is the opposite of the intent book.
Well, it's because, you know, like when we've had that whole who are you to talk about this, that, and the whole thing, and we've internalized that as well. It's also, there's a little bit of fear there is a little bit of fear in the back of the mind that's like, well, if suddenly I woke up tomorrow and I was back where I was like 4 years ago when I had that really clear period. Well, would my existing community be like, well, who are you to tell us this? You don't struggle anymore. How could you possibly understand what I'm going through? Because you're okay. You're in a good place right now. Therefore, because that does happen. Like, you know, that's why I don't do
I have an answer for those people though. No, I know you don't do. I don't do it. I know, but
I do questions because basically I get people to do their own advice because actually, because if you give someone advice, people will think, well, that's all right for you, but what about me?
I don't like when people tell me what to do, so I don't like telling people what to do. Unless it's like a direct, like, hey, take a deep breath, you know, like it has to be something that's like, okay, universally. I don't know many people who take a deep breath and their, you know, limbic system doesn't go, oh, okay. You know what I mean? So yeah, no, but I feel like I had an answer for that as well. That eventually comes around. Yeah. Yeah, I have to tell you, you ask people to help them give their own advice. Nobody likes being told, go do this. You're like, no. First of all, I'm not going to do it because you said so. And second of all, like, that sounds like that, you know, good for you. I don't know. It never, ever, ever works. If you can help people come to the place they need to come to, it just makes more sense to them. It clicks, right?
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, if I tell you how to do something, I'm just giving you instructions. If I tell you how you can figure out how to do something, you then connect the puzzle with the pieces that you have instead of the pieces that I handed to you. Those are two different things. Absolutely. Jinx. I love my dog barking in the background. I don't know if you can hear him, but I'm fine. Sure excited about that. I'm trying to mute, and I don't know what could possibly be still happening outside that's got him this riled up. So we're going to have a talk after this. But okay, so I'm going to ask you a question that I've asked myself quite a few times. And I asked myself, you know, sometime in 2020, so I had been doing this for a little over, like almost 3 years at the time. And then all these other people like you and Waba started coming around. And I would be lying if I didn't say, like, of course I was kind of, I don't know if the word threatened is the word that I was using, but I was like, okay, well, what do these guys have? You know, what do these people have that I don't have? Like, I don't understand why it wasn't, again, the word threatened is the wrong word to use. It's more like, what are they bringing to the table that I'm not? It's about like where am I inadequate that these people are going to come in and fill the gaps? Why can't I fill all the gaps? I have to do everything myself. How could I ever need help or anybody to give a different perspective on anything, right? So that's where I'm coming from when I say,
was
like,
looking for my hair bow, right? But I've got a crown. I'll
hand it over. I'll hand it through the computer.
That would be so weird if I had a similar one right here. I've got a golden sparkly one with stars in it, you see. It's called a Craylo. It's half crown, half halo.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
But I can't find it because I cleaned my room for once in my life.
I'm going to ask you the question that I eventually asked myself after all of that, which is like, it's the obvious, like, we're all different and we're all bringing something different. There's no way that the three of us, I mean, I can name off the top of my head 4 differences that, just between you, Wamba, and I. I'm not even talking about like Blushing Crafter and She Snaps and, 4,000 other mental health advocates out there. So what is the difference between you and other mental health advocates in this space right now?
I'm from Liverpool.
Okay. You could go with I have a penis. That's an option as well. I wasn't quite.
You're assuming that I do, but
wait, actually, that is rude. I shouldn't. But go ahead.
But yes, what is different about me? Do you know what? I actually can't tell you the answer to that because it's that whole. I realize that if I spent too much time trying to figure that out, I'm just trying to be me rather than me being different. Me being different's not a necessity. And the thing is, like with every streamer, like if we take what makes me different as a mental health streamer to one side and just actually say what to anyone, what makes a person different as a streamer, it's their personality. Everyone brings their personality to the table, which is a kind of reasonably unquantifiable thing. One of the things that I would say that I've not really come across, except for with Up for the Challenge, who's not streaming at the minute either, but is the fact that we have what's called an open chat, like a fully open chat. So our chat would be kind of, if someone wants to talk about being suicidal or wants to talk about self-harm without going into graphic detail or abuse or anything like that, if someone wants to talk about triggering thoughts, my rule is always we deal with the person we're completely open. We don't have, if other people in the chat need to step away, then other people in the chat need to step away, but we don't turn around ever and tell somebody that what they've opened up about is too much. We don't tell a person that they're trauma dumping. We don't say anything like that, because ultimately before I did this on a screen, I did this in real life. And in real life, if someone came into the room and just said, I'm just so fucking distraught right now, I feel like doing blah blah blah, and I wouldn't turn around and say to that person, "Excuse me, could you think about all the other people in this room right now?" Because basically, my number one rule is don't ask a person in crisis to act like they're not. And what you're doing if someone comes into a chat and opens up like that. Now, again, like I said before, I do not think I am right and other people are wrong by hosting
it's an
things
interesting
differently.
thing, because my instinct, right? Like, I feel it bubbling up. I feel that instinct of like, no, you're wrong, because that's obviously not how I do it. But then I'm sitting here and immediately, because again, first of all, this is not my house, right? But second of all, like, I'm immediately going, no, but he is right. And the better part is you need both. You need both.
Yeah.
You can't have you can't have an ecosystem without both.
And that's why, first of all, by the way, the biggest compliment I've ever received is that you considered me a threat. But
I said threat. I think it's more like I was jealous. I'm going to use that term. I wouldn't say threat. I don't think I ever thought of anybody as a threat, but I definitely experience quite a bit of jealousy. Absolutely.
But when it comes to other people within the same space, my phrase on this is always collaboration, not competition. And I think I always said this is like, if I brought like when you came onto my stream the first time, it was either the very beginning of last year, because I spoke to you for the second time in February, so I think it was the tail end of 2020 that we spoke for the first time. When you came onto my stream at like that point, you have an intermingling of communities, and there'll be some people that will like what I do and probably just like the fact that I'm on a different time zone, and there'll be other people that will like what you do. And again, like me and, like, for example, I'd like to go with me and Up, because me and Up had a very shared community, and we streamed at one point at very similar times as well. And there'd be people from my community that would like the fact that he's more call you out, more to the point, more brash. And like he says in one word what I say in 4,762.
Same. Yeah.
And the way I said it like is I'm trying to serve the audience. And if by serving the audience, I direct them to you or to Words or to Wabba
Right.
or to anybody else, and they match that vibe better than they like the vibe in my channel, then I have done my job well. Because actually, if I want them to stay in my community just because they're my
miserable,
precious,
right?
Like if I want them to stay in my community when my community matches them 60% and that's good enough, but they found another community that matches them 90%,
you're not really being a good advocate. You're just selfish.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The community members' well-being and the community, what's right for that person, is the most important. It's much more important than them staying here out of any duty or loyalty to me. And that's the whole thing is like, I think this one was about 4 years ago when I had this realization was, that experience where you tell someone something like 50 times and they're like, and it just doesn't sink in. And then they go away. And then like one of the Kardashians says it or something, or another mental health streamer says it, or like someone on and someone else sees it and they come to you and you go, oh my God, I was watching that on the TV the other day and she said this and I was just suddenly like a penny dropped and you're like, oh my God.
That immediate visceral reaction, especially happens to me around like mental health month when people are like, this person, oh no, you know what, it happened. Here, I'll give you a better example. Recently, this guy made a recently, probably like 2 years ago now, I don't know, the time is irrelevant, but he made a 40-minute video about streamer mental health and how it was dropping and how people need to pay more attention to it. And
it was Devin Nash, wasn't it?
I can't say names. He made this video and he was like, this is groundbreaking information. Nobody's ever talked about this. And I'm over here. I spent 2 years researching it, interviewing streamers, talking to community members, writing up the data, getting it published, submitting it. And this guy comes around with a 40-minute YouTube video and people are hailing him like he's the next Messiah. And I'm sitting there going, yeah, nobody's ever talked about this. If only somebody had come sooner and talked about this ever at any time for 4 years of their career. How interesting.
I mean, I must admit that actually is something that does annoy me. It's when it's like
kicks my heart a little. I don't want it to.
I know The Rock has talked about depression before, but like if The Rock tomorrow tweeted mental health matters and that was the whole tweet.
Yeah. Right? And then people are like, oh my God, he's
like
amazing.
Meanwhile, like Dr. Rachel could put an entire like article up of 56 ways to use technology to help with your mental health and all the rest of it. All the latest findings and all and the problem is that yes, okay, you're basically the absolute value, and I'm using value in air quotes, but the absolute value of a piece of content is its value multiplied by its reach. And the thing is, if something's got lower value but significantly higher reach, it will end up being treated as more valuable as something that's got significantly higher reach but a much smaller value. It does.
At the end of the day, am I happy? I just want people to talk about mental health. And at the end of the day, it furthers the point. It furthers what I'm talking about. So like, yes, that will win over in my heart. But I would be a lying a-hole if I didn't first say, oh, that stinks. God damn. It hurts.
No, it does. It does. But to kind of close the loop on the if someone else saying it thing, when someone I used to I still have the immediate visceral reaction. We can't really stop at those, I don't think. What we can stop is how we process it. Right, and I sat down and asked myself the following question was, do I want this person to know this? Or do I want them to know it from me? And again, I want them to know it from me because I'm thirsty but worthy, right? But I want them to know it from me made me feel a little bit squirmy. Not quite as squirmy as if when people ask what I do or I ever refer to myself as an influencer. But I'm educated. Exactly.
Influencer. Watch me influence you. Drink water.
Yes, influence you into taking a nice deep breath. I should be influencing myself to do one of them in a minute.
But again, like if whatever makes you take a deep breath. If you've never taken a deep breath in your life and Dave makes you do it, I'm so happy for you. Whether or not you did it in who's ever chat, honestly.
Hey, look, I've been breathing for nearly 10 years longer than you. So.
Oh,
Don't you be stepping up in here acting like you invented breathing.
So all of it, it's so easy. Our brain, I think it's important to be so hyper aware because I'm speaking for you, our brains are territorial. Well, I did this first in this way with this thing. You think if tomorrow a mental health streamer, I have not streamed in 3 months. If a mental health streamer popped in with a bow on their head, do you know how upset I would be?
Well, there is a gap in the market for that right now, though.
There is.
But a bow doth not make it the M. That's, you know.
Thankfully, I have more personality than wearing a headband. Yeah,
I was going to say your bow is but an accessory.
It's true. It's hopefully.
No one could put if we could put a bow on our heads and become you. Those things would sell like hotcakes.
Oh, yeah. First of all, that's said. Second of all, I could probably then like brand that and sell that, right? Like become M. And
yeah,
that sounds like a great. Oh, I'm like vomiting just thinking about branding. I love the word branding too. That's another one that just like, because when you talk about branding and you talk about mental health, right? Like, it is. No, it isn't. But hello, look at this. It is a thing, right? It is a thing, and everybody brands themselves, and that's how you become The Rock and crap. But like, branding, having to say the word branding next to mental health advocate is just so like viscerally like,
Was that still question 3? Are we still on one big tangent?
Are you counting the questions? Good for you.
I don't know. No, I have a kind of long running joke, and I should have expected this to come out with you and me because I don't think we've ever had a straightforward conversation.
No,
but
I don't. But is that a conversation either of us would want to listen? Like if you and I were on the opposite side of the screen and somebody was like, and now to point 4, would you sit there and listen to that?
It depends what point 4 is really, but yes, I do enjoy.
Oh my God, pedantic. Get out of here.
I do enjoy a smidge of chaos, and I do enjoy, and honestly, like no offense to neurotypical people or anything, but all my favorite people to interview or to be interviewed by now, are neurodiverse. It's where the questions don't basically don't go in one general direction. But yeah, I don't know. I always think about people like a narrative, and a narrative that flows, and like all that stuff. I get it. Look, brains like that stuff. I get it, like universally. Some brains.
But some also true, some brains. But that's really interesting to me is to hear, like, first of all, there was definitely a moment where I was like, listen, we're going to get this a lot further if we all work together. If I work with Dave when he needs something, or I work with Waba when they ask for something, we're all going to get way heckin' further, right? Rising tide lifts all boats, because it does. If you pull up the ladder behind you, you get up there, you pull up the ladder behind you. Now you're the idiot standing on top of the hill going, wow, sure is a nice hill. What a view from here. Mm-hmm. And you're alone. And it's crappy being alone. And you doubt yourself. You start thinking you're doing the wrong thing. Everybody's a threat. Everything is scary. Versus if you're like, hey, I'm going to help you up. Do you think I can ask you a few questions actually about how you do things? Because that's really working for you. And I don't want to do the same thing, but I want to know how did you come here? How did you figure this out? Yeah, absolutely. Let me keep, helping you up. And that just goes so much further. It's a longer game, I think, than just running up the hill and maybe kicking some dirt behind you so nobody else gets you, catches up to you. But it's just so much more satisfying to pull up the person behind you. It's so much more. If the whole goal moves forward, you end up feeling so much better than if you just move forward a little bit yourself, right? I think 3 people can move the goal forward way further than one person ever can. Yeah. And 100%. Like you said, from every perspective, I do stand by the fact I go by the I don't know if you've ever heard this, but I go by the words of Spock of the needs of the many precede the needs of the few. Yeah. And that is how I run my chat. If somebody comes in and they're yelling fire, they are just as important as the other people who aren't yelling fire, but I need the other people to know that they are safe and happy and okay. And the person yelling fire, I believe, should be validated and brought to another space where they could feel just as valued and happy. But that place that isn't on fire, I don't think is the right room for them. And I don't know that I'll die on that hill, because there's exceptions to every rule. And I think there's a way to bring everybody in without it being, triggering and terrifying and everything. But yeah, there you go. If y'all ever wanted to know the difference between mental health advocates, that's a big one. That's a big one.
And that's why that's why like again, me and Adam have said that we need 2 different mental health tags, because when maybe even 3, because mental health can mean streamer has mental health, please be kind. Mental health can also mean we talk about mental health over here, but please nothing triggering. And mental health can also mean like, have at it. Let's talk about mental health.
I'll even tell you this. There are moments where you need different kinds from the same person, right?
Yeah.
Like there are I don't want to put words in your mouth, even though I'm saying you. I'm going to try to use I as much as I can. But there are days where, where I am maybe more open. Like somebody comes in and they are feeling, not great. I am more open to giving them that help. And I felt the feeling in the chat that like everybody's receptive to empathize, to help if they can. Amazing. And then there are other days, again, kind of putting words in your mouth, where you might be like, I can't walk somebody off of that cliff today. It'd be sure great if somebody else could, because today is not the day for me. And that's also okay. We're not the same that's another thing that I feel like gets placed onto people in general in streaming, right? You have to be the same all the time, which who is? I would like to meet that person.
Yeah, because our mental health doesn't fluctuate like our audiences does.
Yeah, of course not. Never. No, that's why I haven't streamed in almost 4 months. Four months. Yeah, because my mental health doesn't fluctuate and I'm perfect. I don't know what you're talking about. Oy. This is such a beautiful conversation, Dave.
By the way, despite the fact that your mental health does fluctuate, you are still perfect.
That's very...
Because those 2 things are separate.
Thank you for that. But Dave, where can people find you?
Here.
Please promote yourself.
Mindset by Dave, literally everywhere. I made it easy. Like I made it easy. You. So it's Mindset by Dave here on Twitch. The only difference is the podcast, which people will be listening to this on as well. But it's still called the Mindset by Dave podcast. It was called Master the Mind, Master Anything. My hugely ableist title, but it was called that for a while, because we were literally talking about personal mastery for a long time. But then we actually figured we were leaving out stories of people that were still in the struggle, and I didn't like that, so we changed it. It's affectionately called the Purple Cast occasionally, but it's called the Mindset by Dave podcast. So if you look up Mindset by Dave on any channel, ever, anywhere, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Hover, possibly Beacons.
Hover, that's a thing.
Yeah, if you come back, if you do come back, Hover's good for meeting peeps. Really good. Yeah. I've only been on there 3 weeks and met a bunch of peeps, so it's like a lot less noise than TikTok.
I have to ask, so how do you not get overwhelmed? Because the idea of socializing with more people in more forums and giving people access to me in another forum makes my head want to explode. So how are you doing that?
I'm really okay. This is literally like in the last 6 months I've developed this. I tell people what my social rhythm is up front. My social rhythm being like, okay, I have ADHD, which means that I might be like in 10 messages in one go at one point, but I also might like not respond for a long time.
Yeah, disclosing that.
And it's like my wife actually is still getting used to this, because I say it to people in real life as well. They're like, oh, we should do this again soon, and I'm like, we should definitely do it again. I'm not sure about that soon part.
Yeah, the soon is at some point. Yeah,
I'll put you in for like circa 6 to 9 months, and it's like, and it's the thing is, like, my wife's like, do you not think you're being like, a little bit rude? I'm like, no, I actually think a person that says yeah we should, when they've got no intention of us being rude.
Yeah, that person deserves a little puncheroo in the face.
So yeah, for example, I joined a stream team last week. I'm on
which one?
Circus X. We are new. Shiny Shinks and Mr. Bigsy, like this, so are running the team. And basically, I put in there saying, look, I am here for the support of everyone's mental health. I am here for all of that, but actually, I will do that in these channels, and please kind of keep DMs to me to a minimum, because ultimately, or if you want to DM me, like do me like ask me if I've got the capacity that day.
Yeah.
And that was my intro. Like now I'm getting very good at that, which which again made me. I felt like I was like, I don't know, being too like aggressive with it, like too harsh with the boundaries. But I honestly, for the last
I don't know that there's a thing as harsh boundaries. Sorry.
Well, yeah. So and one thing I've really realized about boundaries is like when people give you their boundaries, that's them saying that they want you in their life.
Yes.
It's like that's them saying, I want you in my life.
Can you?
But can you make some accommodations for me?
Yeah.
Because what the other people that aren't setting a boundary don't realize is that actually they did set a boundary. They set their expectations early in the relationship. No one signed it up. It's not like Sheldon with a roommate agreement or anything. You know, it's like they set up a boundary, and they've had boundaries that suited them since day one of the friendship. And whereas for you, if you're the kind of the more not quite introvert, not quite extrovert, not quite ambivert, not quite sure where I am, like it's I like when the day people like when people first meet me, I'm this big ball of energy and like all the rest of it. But then I need time to recover from that. And I'm not being fake in either one of those situations. That is genuinely me. You know, it's like I'm being as bipolar and ADHD both have that in them. Right. It's like when I have mania and hyperfixation at the same time, or depression and executive dysfunction at the same time. It's like multiply those things. Yeah. So that's the way I'm doing it. And it's, do you know what? It's actually, I imagine you felt this as well, is that when I first started my podcast, which is like 5 years old now, I felt the need to everyone that I'd had on with the podcast to kind of try and keep in touch. And then I realized, and then I realized
number.
Exactly. And then what I realized, because I felt like I didn't want anybody to think like I'm just asking you to be on this podcast for me, and then once you've done and been done the interview, I don't want anything to do with you. Like that's the last thing I want anyone to think. And but then what I realized was actually I've been on a bunch of people's podcasts, and I don't think that.
I don't expect them to always.
I don't expect them to, ask me to their birthday party or whatever. Right. It's like, I don't expect that. So then I was like, again, okay, if you don't expect it from anybody else, then probably nobody else expects it from you. Yeah. And again, so yes, do I get overwhelmed with it? I guess, and I definitely don't want too many more friends that want to see me too regularly, because I just can't keep up with people's expectations.
I can't socially engage anymore. And a lot of this has come up because of the pandemic. People have started groups and stream teams and, like social. And I understand we need all of them. I'm not against them in any shape or form. I just can only do so many. I know that that cup is full. I think when I started streaming, that cup was a lot more empty because I was looking for that. But now that I kind of like have my spaces, I'm open to new spaces, but it's definitely, a little tough too. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think eventually that's why when creators get bigger, they get accused of selling out, because you eventually realize that you can't say yes to every opportunity.
You cannot be everybody's friend. Yeah. You cannot. It's just physically impossible. It is just not. There's not enough hours. And if I had to message every single person I follow on Twitter, which I think is 2,000 people, I would need to send a message like one message every second. To like keep up with people. Like that's just, come on, guys. Come on. Dave, holy moly, I appreciate you so much. And I think the more I've been on this break, the more I've come to appreciate other mental health advocates and the ecosystem that we've created in this space, the healthy, safe ecosystem that we've created in this space. It almost felt like, because there was a second, right, to talk about hero complex, there was a second where I was like, oh my God, who can do this if not for me? Who will? And then kind of sitting back and being like, no, it's okay. No, Waba's got people, Blushing's got people, Dave's got people. No, there's Snaps has got people. No. And then there's so many other people who don't need a dedicated mental health space, who are still getting their mental health needs met just by socializing, maybe in a Skyrim, stream or whatever it is. So it's okay. It's okay. It's also a little FOMO-y, but it's okay. This is not about me, but I would like to come back. I just have to figure out how to do it in a way that I just have to figure out what that boundary is to do it well, for myself, not for anybody else at the time. Gosh, I love you so much, Dave. I just said it. I just said it. Thank you for saying it back. Oh my goodness.
No need. We don't need any awkward silences. It's fine. But honestly, in a similar way to kind of when I messaged you about this and given you about 17 different options to say no if you needed to, you know, the space is there for you, and we do miss you, but we also all understand why you're doing it. Maybe not to the level that you understand it, but we understand that you need the space, and we understand that you need to, you know, juggle one less ball for a little while. And so it's one of those weird things that when someone does kind of like reach out and say that they miss you and all the rest of it, it's like, I don't want you to kind of feel any pressure from that. I just want you to feel love from that. That's all I want you to feel.
There is pressure from that, only from the sense of like, and this is probably like, this is a bigger conversation than the 3 seconds we have to discuss it. But there's definitely if you missed me so much, should you have been there when I was there, kind of thing. Not you. I was going to say,
I know wholeheartedly that I only ever caught the first 10 minutes of your streams.
No,
if you went an hour earlier, I'd be like, oh, M's on.
No. And no.
But
I don't blame anybody, and I don't think
my sleep comes before everything.
Everything. I know, and it is. Yeah, no. I and my community knows that. Like I always say, like, if I know somebody's in the UK and they were in my stream at 7 p.m. Eastern, I was like, are you going to bed now? I feel like people would leave just to not be scolded. And be like, you know what, I'll go to somebody else's stream who doesn't know my time zone. Get out of here. But anyway, thank you, Dave. Thank you for the opportunity to interview you. I feel like it was a lot, you know, very conversational, very much us talking to each other more than a specific interview. But I did learn a lot about you that I didn't know. So thank you for opening your heart and with kindness. And don't give me that I do this every day. I know it's different. Okay,
I wasn't going to say that.
All right, I'm just putting words in your mouth. It's very fine to do.
Because you've not done that a bunch today. But no, I was going to thank you. I was just going to thank you for your time. And it's again like when. Was it Ren? It was Rennie that tagged you, wasn't it? I think that about when I said.
I think it was a few people. I think it was Martizzle. I think it was Rennie. I think it was a few. So first of all, the holy honor that we have enough community members in common that they were like, wait. And then I was like, this would be stupid not to do. I appreciate Dave so much. Why wouldn't I want to grill him? You know, like, come on.
But yeah, I massively appreciate you for saying yes, and I appreciate you for being here.
It's an appreciation party here.
Mutual appreciation fest. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you haven't heard the last of me. Now I want to like go puff away and smoke, but I don't have that effect available on Zoom right now.
I don't have that as a transition either.
I love you all. Thank you so much for being here. If you feel like the world is dark and nobody can give you the love and the care that you need, go out there and be that light to others. And please be a light to Dave today, because he's a light to everybody all the time. Okay. Mwah. Bye.
Bye.